How has it highlighted the utility of crypto?
Well, I think, let's say the dollar might never be the same, right? I mean, I think the biggest thing that's happened in the last 10 years in lots of ways, maybe longer, is when Europe and the US said, hey, Russia, those reserves that you thought were yours, they're not really your reserves. So what does that mean? It means the dollar or treasuries as a risk-free asset isn't so risk-free. It's not risk-free if you're Russian, and maybe if you're Chinese, you're like, it might not be risk-free either. Figure out what is the reserve currency. The U.S. isn't going away, right? The dollar's not going away, but it's not going to be the sole place. And so I think you're going to see this hodgepodge of assets. Gold, certainly digital assets are going to be part of that bucket. The whole world's not going to flip to Bitcoin overnight, but you're going to see more and more people say, I want to have some of my money outside of the sovereign. Bitcoin is a public blockchain. You know, way back we hired Mike Morrell, who had run the CIA, we, Galaxy, and a few other companies, to do a study on Bitcoin. And he did like a 10 weeks exhaustive study with the security agencies, with the three-letter agencies, with crypto companies. And he came up with a thesis that if you were going to design a trap to catch criminals, it would look a lot like the Bitcoin blockchain. And so it's just, Elizabeth Warren is just wrong when she thinks you can use Bitcoin for Russia to escape sanctions. And we're looking at it the wrong way. The Russian ruble has depreciated over 90% in the last 10 years. Just this year alone, I think high to low is like 65%. The Turkish lira did the same. Bitcoin is a lifeline to people in countries with really poor stewardship of their economy. And we should be thrilled that Russians can get some of their money in Bitcoin so they're not completely broke holding worthless rubles.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, you know, I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have Mike Novogratz from Galaxy Digital on Bloomberg. Speaking of the world reserve currency, and guys, we know the dollar is over as the world reserve currency. And we know that digital yuan is rising behind the curtain. But we know when the billionaire puppets speak, they let out things. And he said they hired a former CIA member to investigate Bitcoin. And we know Bitcoin has the NSA fingerprints all over it. But we know CBDCs take Bitcoin to another level. It's the all-seeing eye. We know that's what the New World Order wants, to be able to see every transaction you do so they can tax the globe and then cut you out the system with a push of a button. And then also, Mike Novogratz speak of the Fed, and he told the truth about the Fed. The Fed pumped it all. With all this liquidity, everything went up. Cryptos, we have over 18,000. All the stocks, some of the stocks were trading 30 times, 40 times earnings. And we know all about BlackRock being an extension of the Fed. And then also what Mike said wonderfully is that the Fed hasn't even started yet. And don't I say it all that the Fed hasn't even started yet. Yes, they're pricing in a lower rate hike. But guys, you have to remember, 25 basis points on 9 trillion would cause a rumble in the markets. That's the reason why we pulled back trillions already. Don't forget that Canada went up 0.5 basis points. Bank of England has raised rates twice. And the United States will keep raising rates. Why? Because they have to choke off this economy. That is the only way they're going to bring in automation. They're going to bring America to its knees. And Mike Novogratz predicts a $500,000 Bitcoin in 5 years. The reason why? Because he knows about the fourth industrial revolution, just like Kathy Woods. He knows the robots, algorithms, and drones would have taken over the economy. And the sheep will be inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you because he knows. When it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
CBDCs, right? Because today when I saw the headline that the Saudis might start selling the Chinese oil in yuan, the first thing I thought about was, oh, they're so far ahead of us with the digital yuan.
Yeah, so I think this is the biggest national security concern that every country should have. And as every citizen, you've got to understand that one CBDC and a stablecoin ain't the same thing, right? It all comes down to who controls them. And so if you look at the Chinese version, where it's a blockchain of one, right, it's complete, total transparency into every transaction you do. So you're giving up complete privacy, right? The version that we're pushing for, the the blockchain community here in the U.S., what Brian Brooks pushed when he was the head of the OCC was private companies running on a public blockchain, but those assets backed by assets held at Fed banks, right? So it's where your privacy goes. I was on a call literally with the central bank governor of Brazil at one point, and I was pointing out that their president didn't really like gay people. I just Googled Bolsonaro gay, and there's about 18 pages of pretty uncomfortable stuff. And so if you're gay in Brazil, you don't want your country knowing every last purchase you made. So where do we care about privacy? And this sounds nuanced, but it is the single most important part of understanding how important this fight of CBDCs is. To start with, listen, Bitcoin went up a lot last year on this story of the Fed printing money forever. That's what pushed all risk assets up, right? We had this unbelievable amount of liquidity. And it came off because the Fed, Chairman Powell finally said, hey, I got to take this more seriously than I've been taking it, and I'm going to get hawkish. We're starting to see a little bit of a breakdown. I don't think Bitcoin can rally aggressively until we get a pause. And I would tell you that because Bitcoin's a narrative story. It's bringing people into a community. There are 150 million people into that community. Most are staying in it. Right? That's the 8th biggest country in the world. It's bigger than Russia. So Bitcoin holders are a bigger country if you think it's sovereignty than Russia. But to bring new people in, it's hard when their house is on fire. And right now, if you talk to any investor, Chinese stocks are cratering, tech stocks are cratering. Their mindset isn't like, let me see where I can find more risk. And so we're going to hit a pause. The war will end. Let's pray to God. The Fed will go and we'll start saying, hey, we've priced in the Fed. And once markets hit some equilibrium, I think you're going to see the narrative really take off.
So where would you set a target for year end this year and 5 years out?
Great question. Listen, I think, like the other bald Mike, that the NASDAQ has further to go to the downside this year. I think literally the Fed hasn't even started hiking rates. They haven't started pulling liquidity from the system. And so the whole year thought we'd be a 30,000, 50,000 range in Bitcoin. Risk to the upside, not the downside. But I think, 5 years out, if Bitcoin's not at 500,000, I'm wrong on the adoption cycle. Right? We see an adoption cycle that accelerates. Bitcoin grew so much faster last year, crypto grew, than the internet did its best years in the 90s. And so I see this going viral everywhere. If it's in the Mideast or in pension funds in the United States, all getting ready to participate.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols, who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.
Most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Tam save New York from COVID 33. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.